In the last video, I shared with you how we keep camp fun and engaging. Kind of fun equals competition and what our rule of 10 was. If you missed that, head back to the last video or the last email that I sent out and you'll be able to catch up on that. Now today I want to talk about 3 areas that a lot of times you overlook, or it's just part of the camp process, but it's not talked about a whole lot because it's not the day-to-day operation. It's not a drill or a competition that you're going to throw in, but it's still vitally important to making sure your camp is successful and gets off on the right foot. And what that's going to be are online signups. How are you getting signups? If you're doing it the old paper copy way, there's nothing wrong with that, but it's a little bit slower. Online signups certainly are faster. Now, a cheap and effective way of doing this is just through a Google form. Go create the Google form with all of that information in it, and then you're going to get it in a spreadsheet. It's going to already be organized for you. There are some different payment processors you can attach to Google Forms, or you can send them a link to pay through Stripe or PayPal, something like that. I won't get into too much of that right now, but just know that there are some cost-effective ways that you can do that online without having to use the paper copies. The second thing is liability forms. You want to make sure that you have some kind of disclaimer about there is a chance for injury in camp, a sprained ankle, or somebody falls on their arm or twists their knee, that kind of thing. We want to make sure that they're aware of that and parents sign off on it. You can put that right in your Google form, or that can be something they sign the day they come into camp. Now, when it comes to liability insurance, many times schools will have their own liability insurance. So if you're running it for your school, you don't have to worry about that. But if you go into another district, or you're kind of running this camp on your own and it's not part of the school, then many school districts will require liability insurance ahead of time. You have to prove that you have that insurance. Just call your local insurance agent and let them know that you're running a camp, and they have special programs and special rates for camps based on how long the camp is, how many kids there are. Now, I will say you want to call around to a couple because they certainly are not all the same. I found that out when I was running my own private camps, that different insurers kind of do that calculation in a different way. Some will be more, some will be less, but it's something to add in there in case somebody gets hurt. Now, in the 20 years that I've been running camps, I've had very few injuries and no one has ever come back on me, but I can't say that that's going to be the case all the time. So you want to make sure that you're covered. And like I said, many schools will require that for you to even use their gym for a camp. The third thing is our staffing. Are we going to pay them, or are they going to be volunteers? The payment side of it, you have to figure out how much money you're planning on bringing in. When you're paying your staff, charging more for your camp is appropriate because you're going to be, paying those college players or those people who are taking time off of work, and you want to pay them well. When I had camps that I was running privately, I paid my camp staff really well because I wanted to make sure that I got good campers, but I also wanted to make sure that they would come back year after year, and if I paid them well, I knew I'd get that. You're always going to have some turnover, but if you pay them just a little bit, then it's hard to get them to keep coming back. And if they find that their summer job pays more, they're likely to go do that instead of go, help you in camp. So take a look at that, see how much money you think you're going to be bringing in, and I would portion off a good section of that, maybe even up to 50% for your camp staff. But it depends on how big your camp is and how much you're going to be asking these people to do. Now, volunteers, that's how we run it now. We run volunteers with a staff in our program as well as with our varsity players or our players who have already graduated, maybe they're college players. They come in and they're volunteering their time and they're helping grow the program. And we make a big deal out of this, that we want our kids in front of our varsity players, in front of the kids in camp, because those kids look up to the varsity players and one day want to be them. So it's really important for them to be enthusiastic and to be present and to just be there. And our kids have done a great job, but we promote this by, this is the legacy that you're leaving. This is you setting the tone for the program. This is how you're going to be remembered, you seniors, who this is your last chance really to do this in this way. So we make it a big deal to our players, and then we have kids kind of, as they grow in the program, they anticipate working these camps, and it's just a lot of fun for them. So those volunteers, a little bit different, but you have to sell it. You still have to give them something. Sometimes there are programs in school. In order to graduate, you have to have so many hours of volunteer time. This would count as their volunteer time. Or if they belong to a different organization that requires them to be involved with something they need it for a college application, or anything like that. There's been a lot of reasons we've done it. I've also written a lot of letters of recommendation based on what the kids do in our camps, because the way they interact, the professionalism that they have, and the enthusiasm that they bring it's easy to write a letter because you've seen it in action, not just in the season when they're trying to get playing time. This is them truly and genuinely being themselves. So, Coach, online signups, liability and insurance forms, and then either paying or having volunteers in your camp. These are all going to be things that you're going to run up against as you put your camp together. All right, Coach, until next time, go get better.